Hey,
Hey, how are you, sir?
good, good. How are you?
All right, doing great. It's great to see you.
Yeah, yeah, same here.
Man,
Dr. Music.
yes, yes, you gave me the name. How cool is that? There's a story here. I got to tell you. When I was a kid, I watched
Okay.
the Black and Blue uh, tour on the video. I believe it was a Betamax at the time, and and I heard Dr. Music. You guys played that at that show, and I thought that is just the coolest song I've ever heard, and I just love the way it rolled out. It was just it stuck with me forever. And I said, I want to be Dr. Music. Music is my name. Call me Dr. Music.
Yeah.
I put this website together. I stayed home with my kids. I put this website together and started doing this thing. And I said, what better name and what better band to model myself after? I appreciate that song and I appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. It's very cool to see how we've influenced people. That's
Oh,
a wonderful thing.
yeah, it's tremendous the influence of Blue Oyster Cult and your music. It's just amazing. Let me introduce you for everybody watching. I have with me Albert Bouchard, founding member, original drummer of the legendary Blue Oyster Cult. Sold millions and millions of albums. The drummer for all those big, huge hits. Um, he is now putting out Imaginos Reimaginos before this, and this is the second in the trilogy. Imaginos II, Bombs Over Germany, and Minus Zero and Counting, and that comes out October 21st. And it is so great to have you. It's really, and it's great to see you doing this trilogy the way it was meant to be, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people would ask me, "Are you ever going to finish this thing?" And I'd say, "Well, it was Sandy Pearlman's idea, and he really has to. He's the guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy that I wouldn't want to do it without him." And then when he had his accident and he was in the hospital, I went and I told him, "Hey, man, you got to get better because I want to do this thing with you." And it's been a long time, and I think we need to finish this record, this trilogy. We have to do the other two volumes, and I don't know how much he understood when I was talking to him because he. Oh, hold on. Let me just turn off my
Mhm.
mail.
Yeah.
It's giving me notification.
I know the feeling.
There we go. Okay, so because he couldn't speak, he could really hardly move anything. I mean, he was breathing on his own. He could blink his eyes. He seemed to understand. I would say blink once for yes, and
Right.
or once for no, and twice for yes, which he did that. So we communicated like that, and all. I mean, he showed a lot of emotion. Actually, and I was like, this is bizarre because I never knew Sandy to be super emotional. Actually, he seemed to be he was an intellectual,
Steady
kind
guy.
of cerebral, all the time. And here he is crying and stuff. And it was like, wow.
Mm.
So, and the other thing that was weird was that I never really got to talk to him that much without him interrupting me. He had so much to say. He was extremely verbose. So, yeah, and he was interested in clarifying things all the time. So that was unusual. But I told him that we had to do this thing, and see, it was in the works because he was coming to Stony Brook because he had become a pedagogue just like me, except I taught in a high school and he was teaching college. But so he had taught in a few different schools, and he was going to be a guest teacher at Stony Brook. it like basically a week and a half after he had had the accident. So he was scheduled to come to New York. He had a place to live. It's not far from where I am. I'm out here at my girlfriend's house on Long Island because I keep all
Yeah.
my stuff here.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
an apartment in the city. That's where my studio is. But I have this trailer that I take around to places, and
Yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah.
done a
That's
few
great.
gigs with the trailer. So it's cool. It's a very comfortable way of camping out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I have my car here, and I have all my drums except for I have like a bass drum pedal, a snare drum, and cymbals in the city because when you're in the city, there's always a back line. But you probably want to bring your snare, pedal, and cymbals because they might be dodgy.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
Always a backline. That's where you.
yeah,
That's pretty great.
yeah.
Definitely.
But I have all the other drums out here. I have like three kits. I do have a electronic kit, which is what I use to do
Okay.
all the drum parts for both the Imaginos records so far.
Really?
Three Imaginos and Imaginos II. Yeah. Although
Wow.
I have a program that I can select drums that are exactly the same as the drums that I use.
Man. And how's the feel on something like that? Like you feel that acoustic set, you tuning it and everything. Hitting the side, hitting a rim shot, things like that. Does it function quite the same with the electronic kit?
Well, the one that I used, okay, after I did Imaginos 2, I actually bought another Roland kit, which is digital.
Okay.
So that has a huge variety of sounds. How you hit the drum. It's almost like a real kit. It really is very, whereas the other one, it only had 256 levels of volume, and it was a little more limited, but I could, if I needed to do something, I could do it while I was mixing in the box.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I, I could change the volume or whatever, and I mean, it's not quite the same as just doing it for real, but the good thing is that I could do a drum part, play a take all the way through, right?
Mhm.
And then a month or 2 months later, after now I've got other overdubs, I've got a lead guitar on there, I've got all these things, and I'm like, that drum fill. If I played the drum fill with the lead guitar, that would sound better. So I can just go and play the drum fill,
Yeah, that's just wild.
and it's
I mean,
exactly the same. You can't do that with a real kit.
yeah, yeah, that's pretty great. And you're getting about the same sound. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Technology has come a long way.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Now, Sandy Pearlman, for people who don't understand the magnitude of that man on the band. From what I understand, it was like in 67, he came in and had the Imaginos poems and an essay, like, right? And ended up co-producing you guys and managing you guys for like 30 years almost. But he wanted a band to perform this Imaginos trilogy. Yes.
I don't know. He didn't
Okay.
put it like that.
Okay.
He said, I got this idea for this story. That was the first time I heard it. So I got this idea for a story. We had rented a band house. This is in 1967,
Right.
fall of 1967. And so we had rented this house, and we didn't know, I think the guy was kind of an older guy that had rented us the house. So we were concerned that it would smell like pot if the guy went. So we would go up in the attic and light some candles because there was no light up there. We'd light some candles and we'd smoke pot. So one of these times that we're doing that, Sandy was there. I don't remember. I mean, I know later on he never smoked pot, but I think in the early days he did. And so he was smoking this pot and he's talking about this story. And I thought, wow, this is totally wild. This is epic. This is like an epic story. I thought this is like, Homer's Odyssey or,
Right.
stuff like that. Uh, so then, and I think, well, before we were Blue Oyster Cult, he had presented us with that song,
Okay.
and and it was sitting around. It was, it was on 2 pages. It seemed like a lot of lyrics, and we were like, oh, this is kind of fanciful, he had other songs that were simpler, like one of the first songs that we did. Well, the first song we ever did, I wrote with him, was called Buddha's Knee. And it's out there on YouTube somewhere, I'm sure. And well, I know it is because I I had the tape, but then I was like, I wonder if it's on YouTube because my tapes are so old that when I put them on the machine, they just start falling apart. So I said, let me see if I can find it. And I did. I found it on YouTube, Buddha's Knee. And of course, the comments are like, wow, man, they came a long way. Oh, this is some psychedelic crap here.
Well, we're
Oh,
talking 67 too. Come on, folks.
it was 67. We were all stoned, of course.
Wasn't everybody?
And at that time, I had this mistaken idea that I played better when I was stoned. Yeah, an idea that I might add persisted for way too long. So it's funny. I mean, because now I go to a gig and I play with different people. I'm playing right now with Robert Gordon and also the Dictators, and so they'll say, "Hey, you want a swig of this?" And I'll be like, "Nope, I'm good."
Yeah,
Because for
real.
me, what I realized eventually was playing music is the best high. It's just the best. It doesn't get better than that. If you get high, you're actually not having as much fun as you would have if you weren't high. I mean, I think that probably a lot of people do it in the beginning because they're nervous, they're worried that the crowd won't like them, or
Right.
they'll make fun of them, or they'll look silly, or whatever. So they get high just to uh,
Chill
release.
out a little bit.
Yeah. So, but I'm way beyond that now. I'm too late. It's too late. If I haven't made a fool of myself already, nothing I can do. So yeah, I don't. I just have a great time playing. So I have to play straight.
Yeah.
Afterwards, then people want to buy me a drink, and I want to support the bar, so I'll like say, okay,
There you go.
put it down, go to the next guy. Yeah, sure, you can buy me a drink. Put it down.
It's a good life, my friend. It's a good life.
It is. I have been blessed. It's
And
so. But Sandy was huge to us. I mean, he was the first intellectual I ever met. He uh, he was very generous to me. I think that in general, he was generous. If he liked you, he would do anything for you.
yeah,
That's and I mean, Patti Smith will attest to that. I mean, so he liked me, I liked him. We worked well together, uh, and we did do a bunch of his songs before we were Blue Oyster Cult.
right.
And matter of fact, that's how we got the name. Is that he had written this song, and which we were like, nah, we're not going to do it. And uh, then he named the band. We couldn't decide. We tossed ideas, and some of the ideas for a name were Santos Sisters, knife wielding scumbags. Uh, um, Richard Meltzer wanted cow.
Cow.
Yeah, COW.
All right.
That's the name.
I and you decided on Blue Oyster Cult, but every time I say it, I kind of think to myself, do I have the cadence right? I naturally say, like most people, I think, say Blue Oyster Cult. When you first decided on the name, or heard the song and it was presented to you and it was said to you, was it said Blue Oyster Cult, or was it said Blue Oyster Cult?
No, it was Blue Oyster Cult. It was like,
Okay.
almost like one word. It was, yeah. And it was always like that. So when we were supposed to sign the contract, we needed a name. And so we said, you and Murray go into the room and don't come out until you got a name. We went in the room, and not a minute later, they come out laughing, and we go, "We got it." We're like, "Okay, give it to us." They said, "Blue Oyster Cult." We're going, "No, go back."
Not that thing again.
That's your song. Come up with something new.
And how many years later is it? And we have Blue Oyster Cult as a legendary band. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, 45, 44 years. Is that it? Let's see, 67 to now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's it's
50,
54 years.
yeah, 50. Yeah, it's going to be 54 years. Yeah.
54 years.
Yeah.
Did you ever imagine it? I mean, that is just incredible. Not too many bands make 54 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, really, my goal, I thought I would do this for a while when I was young, and maybe if I was lucky, I could hear my song on the radio at least one time.
Wow.
Uh, I was living upstate New York, and there were plenty of much better musicians than me, and they never heard the record on the radio. So I was like, I think upstate is not the place to be if you want to put your song on the radio or your performance, because I didn't know. I mean, I was writing songs when I was in like eighth grade. I started writing songs. I didn't know how to write them down. So there was this guy who lived right like a half a block from the school. Nowadays, they probably wouldn't let him live there because he was gay. His name was John Flanders, and but he was a nice guy, and I used to go over to his house, and he'd say, "Okay, I'll show you how to do this, how to write this down, and how to count it out." And I mean, I'd taken piano lessons and stuff, but he really taught me how to. And so he wrote down my first song for me, and then after that, after he taught me, I knew how to do it. But yeah, I've always
Wow.
first gay person I ever knew. So
Yeah. Oh, that's and that's special, that to teach you that. And
and
I mean,
I was like 13 years old or something, and people are like, "Oh, the gay people would try to convert." No, he wasn't interested in me.
yeah,
He had his lover or his crowd that he went with. I was not part of that. I was
right.
just a little kid that wanted his knowledge, which he was happy to share.
Yeah. That's pretty great. It's pretty great. Yeah, for sure. And he changed the world by teaching you that. I mean, really, it's the world, I mean, my life would be different if we didn't have Blue Oyster Cult songs and your influence on the music. It would. It's so many people, millions of people. So that impact is huge. Um, I have to ask you about OD'd on Life Itself. That's the first single.
Right?
Uh, um, Also, that was a Blue Oyster Cult track on Tyranny and Mutation,
Right?
but it's quite different. You do it differently. Now you stick to the original lyrics that were written by Sandy. Um, what made you change it back then when Blue Oyster Cult did it? Why didn't you have the original lyrics back then?
Actually, it was Sandy that decided to take out those lyrics
Wow.
because he heard how Eric sang it, and even though that wasn't how he he originally thought of it, because he thought of it as like this spooky song.
Hmm.
Eric sang it like sarcastic, and he's like, "Oh, okay, so take out that crumple like graves cross stuff. That's that's
Okay.
it's not necessary. Just keep singing OD on life itself." So I mean, he wrote it with Eric, so it was basically. I mean, I did something. I think I wrote the bum 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 bum. That's all I did, you
Okay.
know. But and I might have helped it with the arrangement a little bit, but it was basically Eric's song. He started it out, and Sandy worked with him, and so it was just luck that I found the original lyrics, because I did a search, and I'm like, oh yes, that's right. That's how because I had started trying to do it like Eric, the original version.
Right.
I was like, this really, it's sort of like a rock chaka like electric guitar thing, and I wanted to be able to do it on acoustic guitar, because that's how I did Reimaginos. Was
Hmm.
the idea was everything was going to be. It didn't have to have all acoustic instruments, but the basis of every song was going to be acoustic instruments. So,
Yeah.
so I wanted to continue that with this as much as I could. I mean, there's some songs that I was not able, like Bombs Over Germany, which is ME 262. That one was very hard to make it totally acoustically oriented, because it's so bombastic. And then I got Ross the Boss to come, and he said, "I'll just plug direct, and you can do whatever you want." And I'm so the plugin is like a Marshall, J what is it, JM 800 or something, JSM 800. So
Yeah.
the classic Marshall. So and it sounded great like that, and I'm like, okay, that's what it's gonna be, But
Ross.
that OG Life, that song really took me a while to come up with uh, the alternate the alternate rhythm. I had several different ones. I recorded like the whole song like three times. With David Hirschberg coming over and playing, bass and singing, and then I would say, "Dave, you got to come back," and I changed it all around again. And so he came back, and I played it, and then a couple of weeks later, I said, "David, I changed the key. You got to come back for me to sing, because I have a lower voice than Eric." So
It sounds great. It's really cool. I mean, it's a, a different song than the Blue Oyster Cult version. And it's cool to know that this is what Sandy's intentions were with it. It's really, really cool.
yeah, well, that's I mean, a lot of it is because I told him I would do it, and it's like this deathbed thing, that you tell somebody you're going to do something when they're dying,
Hmm.
you really ought to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
You
you're
know,
doing it, man.
didn't even think about it for like 4 years, because I was kind of devastated that he died.
Yeah.
I really thought that the power of my love would heal him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you have a traumatic brain injury, and it's touchy. You might, a lot. Most people don't come back from that. Although I have two people in my band now that have had traumatic brain injury.
No kidding. Oh
David
my.
had a skating accident about 2017
Wow.
accident, and he was in the hospital for 9 weeks. Yeah, and he passed out in the rink, but by the time all he remembers is getting put on the stretcher, and he was awake already. So
Wow.
yeah,
Unbelievable.
and Dana McCoy, who sings with me and is going to be playing with the band for a few shows. She just had this is in February. She just had a tumor removed from her, like, yeah, right here.
Wow.
Here.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was, so she's still. David is pretty much, he can't smell anymore. He's lost that, but everything else pretty much has come back. So and when he has those weird spells where he feels dizzy or whatever, he's like, yeah, if I'm going to fall down, I'll fall down, but I don't think I am. He,
Wow.
but so it's kind of nice that they're together in the band because he can kind of, okay, don't worry, you're going to be fine,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
So
they are relating on a whole new level, aren't they?
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's just it's great to have them doing their thing and be able to do what they love to do and be effective.
Well, Sandy, unfortunately, it happened in a parking lot where there was an ATM, and he'd just gone to the ATM, pulled out some money, and before he could get in his car, he passed out. So he was on the side of his car. So people didn't see him probably for an
Oh,
hour.
oh, wow.
Yeah, so he was kind of in that weird state. And
Yeah.
so yeah, he wasn't able to come back.
Wow.
But anyway, so I'm doing it. I've already got people lined up for the next record. I have
Yeah.
12 out of the 14 songs. I've started track to make the tracks for them. Although I have another idea. I'm thinking that the next one might be more like a compilation record where I have bands like a whole instead of having
Ah,
that musician, I'm going to have the whole band come and play a song.
right. Wow, that's a cool idea. Yeah, that sounds really, really like that's something. That
Yeah,
would be really something.
yeah.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I look forward to it for sure. Tell me about the Reimaginos comic book graphic novel. Did I
Oh,
hear you got that in the works?
the other thing is that the Deco Records, they one of the guys has a connection to a college. I think he's an adjunct professor there, and they have a comic book graphic arts program.
Mm,
And so he knows some of the students there, and the professors have like professionals who graduated. So he gave me a choice of seven artists, and I chose somebody for the cover and somebody else for the inside. So they're going to do some mock-ups for me probably by the time this one comes out, in a few weeks, I'll have something to look at. I mean, I saw samples, but and the other thing is that they wanted to know, how to flesh out the story. So I gave them a 2 sentence synopsis of how the timeline of the thing fit in with the sequence of the album, right?
mhm.
And then he's like, how can I find out more? I said, well, what you should do is you should check out Martin Popoff's book, Flaming Telepaths,
Mm,
because that one, he really goes in deep on, the whole timeline and all these things that kind of correspond to events that happened in the Imaginos story. So there's going to be a lot of stuff. Um, Yeah, and uh, I mean, I think that and we were discussing about how because somebody asked about, well, what's the sequence in Bombs Over Germany, this thing, and so essentially it starts with World War I or right before World War I, then it goes into World War II. Then it goes post World War II, where there's humanity, there's all these things, serial killers and, riots and all these other things that happen. And at the end, the earth, civilization is destroyed.
right. Wow.
Armageddon. So that's the last song on Bombs Over Germany, and which, of course, was supposed to have happened. We're supposed to be extinct right now,
Right.
according to the Imagineer saga. So, but that's could be we could be in an alternate universe, right?
This is possible. This is very possible.
Oh, you.
If you go up to the attic one more time and light some candles and smoke some pot, it could happen. um, Now this whole thing is kind of a reverse. Like this graphic novel, this comic book is kind of a reverse of what you did with the heavy metal movie, right? You have, that graphic novel, so to speak, animated film, and you're writing music to it.
Yes.
Uh, how different is that? Was that an adventure for you guys? I mean, writing music for a film and a
Yes.
comic book, pretty much.
That was a learning experience, and I got to uh, meet with the editors and all this other stuff, and they gave me like storyboards. I still have them. Storyboards
Wow,
for every sequence of that movie.
awesome.
So we blew them up, and when we practiced, we would look at the story and say, how can we make this song fit the story? So we had a song for every story, every sequence in there, and of course they ended up. I was told that they were going to use the whole record, which would have
Ah,
been great,
right.
but then when they didn't want to use it, they said, we just want Veterans of the Psychic Wars and
Mhm.
Burning for You, and we said if they took Burning, they had to take the whole record, which they said no, we don't. We've got plans for the other stuff. So that, and it turned out fine. I mean, they had a hit movie and
Mhm.
we had a hit record, and
And
I
that,
mean, maybe Don made some more money if if we put Burning in both things, but it's all worked out in the end.
yeah, and that song is great in that movie. Veterans of the Psychic Wars is really
Oh yeah.
cool. It's really cool. It fits so well. Um, Metallica does a cover of Astronomy on the Imaginos record, and it's
Yeah.
it's pretty true to the style. But Metallica, of course, is Metallica. They're going to sound. When you heard that, how did that feel to you? Did you like what you heard?
I did like it, but I had read interviews where they said we really, people are going to criticize us because we change things around a lot on these songs, and I'm like, oh, what are they going to do? And then, as it turned out, they didn't change hardly anything. So
Yeah,
I was a little disappointed. I thought, oh, I thought they were going to really change it, and make it like super heavy.
I,
But
I
they
it, it,
I mean, it was heavier than Blue Oyster Cult's version, but it
mm,
was so respectful. I mean, and you can't really criticize somebody for that.
yeah. I see. I would think. Yeah, I'm thinking that you would think the opposite way, where if they changed it too much, you wouldn't like it. You were looking for more change. That's pretty great.
Yeah, but and now I love it. I think it's the best version of the song, except for the reimagined version.
There you go. Definitely.
That is better, is because it's exactly how Sandy wanted it.
Hmm.
You
And
know,
that's what's really special about these records that you're doing is this is Sandy's voice, if you will.
yeah.
And that's really something special, definitely. You have Ross the Boss on this record. Of course, Ross the Boss. I got Shaken Street. Haven't seen this one in a while, I'm sure, right? uh and you have this one too. You have Joe Sarasano, right? Silver
Yeah,
Condor.
yeah,
Yeah. These are guys that I'm very familiar with, and Ross, of course, with Manowar. Just really musical people. Joe Sarasano, Trans Siberian Orchestra, and so many other things, studio type things. Just talents. I mean, huge talents.
yeah,
But this record also sees Eric Bloom, Donald Roser, Buck Dharma, your brother Joe. You have the Blue Oyster Cult nucleus here, and you even have Richie Castellano. Uh, you know,
yes.
somebody that you didn't play with in Blue Oyster Cult, really. Um, so it's have you ever talked about actually doing? I know you appear on the Blue Oyster Cult last record. Do you ever think about doing a full Blue
Yeah.
Oyster Cult record?
You know, I don't know. I feel like, especially the last record, it was like they have these guys, Richie and Jules and Danny and even Chasm. You know, before that, when I went out on tour with them in 2016 for a
Okay.
few shows, a half a dozen shows, and which was a blast. And I
Yeah.
remember the last night that we went out to eat, and I took everybody, all the not Eric and Don, but the other guys. All the well, they had their wives or whatever. So, but the other guys were there by themselves. So I took them all out to eat. We went for a drink, and I took them out to eat. And then after that, I said, listen, you guys have to put your stamp on this brand because you've been working on it for all these years, and you've earned the right to have some of your songs or some of your performances represented on record with Blue Oyster Cult. I mean, and at this point I was starting to get sound exchange money, and
Right.
the music musicians fund and all this stuff. And I mean, my royalties are fine. With I could survive just on the stuff from Colombia, but there's all these other revenue streams, and I didn't see why they should be sharing with that. So when they came to do the record, I know my brother was sending them. He was writing to Buck every week. He would send him another song, or he'd say, "Hey, if you want me to sing," or all this other stuff. And I'm like, let them do their thing. They've earned it. They've earned, you
Yeah.
know, this moment to put their stamp. Now, in the future, like I mean, we're saying about this next record. I mean, I think it'd be very cool to have not me, but them play on, you know, all those guys, the current B.O.C members, to play one song on the record.
Yeah. That's
Would be
man.
awesome,
That,
And,
that's
and
cool.
I have to say, with them playing on this one, it was a lot of it was Richie because when I given him a copy of the record and I said, how do you like it? He said, I think it's awesome, man, but how come you didn't ask any of us to it? Well, those guys had their chance. He said, well, you could ask me. I said, well, I know you're busy.
Yeah.
He's, yeah, but I like to be busy.
He's brilliant. That guy. He
He is amazing. He
he
is
is.
amazing. He is my mini me.
He's great. He's great. And
When they got him in the group, because I used to think that the group before Richie was in it, when I wasn't in it, and I'm not saying anything against any of the other musicians that played with him, but
Mhm.
because let's start with Rick Downey. Rick Downey is a great drummer. He was fine as a drummer, but
Mhm.
I did so much more than play the drums,
Right.
and he didn't, he didn't do any of that. He was not really in the arranging,
Right.
right, theorizing about, conceptualizing about, where we're going to go as a group, and
Right.
that was a part of what I did, and I was definitely the most divergent thinker. I'd be the one that would have to convince everybody, oh, well, you should do this, or whatever, I mean, you know, we shouldn't put, I remember Donald wrote "Burning for You" for the Cultosaurus record,
Okay.
and I said, I know this is going to sound, I'm going to sound like an idiot, but I said, no, it's too commercial. We need to put out a non-commercial record because that's what we started out doing.
Hmm.
We if it sounded like something we heard, we did not do it. It was
Right.
only if it was completely new or completely you know, a completely new recipe,
Yep.
shall we say, that so every recipe had to be completely new in the beginning. And I think that was something that BOC fans liked and came to expect. And
Yes.
even, and when we did it enough, Then when we did do something commercial like Reaper, it was like, oh, that's really new.
Yes. And that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
You had this quirky band doing this stuff that's just a little bit awkward, and it's just so progressive in its own way. And then you have this radio hit on there, and it's a pure radio hit. And it's like, what don't they do? They do it all.
Yeah. So that's why Cultosaurus, even though the record company was slightly, they were a little disappointed, but they said, well, at least you sound like Blue Oyster Cult again. So now, then we were in a position to have a hit, and Don was like, after we didn't put it on that record, he's like, I want to save it for my solo record. And I'm like,
Mm,
okay, Buck Dharma solo record versus Blue Oyster Cult. Who's Buck Dharma again?
yeah.
Name recognition. You want a big hit? Put it out as Blue Oyster Cult.
Hmm.
It would be a hit. I said, I know it's going to be a hit. And he was like, well, we'll record it and see what happens. So we recorded it, and, and it sounded like a hit. And he's like,
Yeah.
okay.
And it was the biggest hit, right? The biggest Blue Oyster Cult hit.
Yes, that's exactly right. It sold the most copies and was made a higher chart position and on the charts for longer. Now,
Yep.
had the staying power of Reaper? No.
No, no.
Reaper is like, it's been used in so many TV shows and movies and all
Oh,
kinds of, yeah.
I
And
mean,
there's hundreds of covers of it too.
yeah. Oh, it's one of the greatest songs of all time. I mean, it just is. It's one of the most played on radio. It's huge. It's part of the fabric of who we are as a society, as a culture. Really, it is. It's pretty incredible. Tell me about,
Cowbell.
what was that?
Even without the cowbell.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna say the word cowbell. That was my goal in this whole thing, not to say the word cowbell.
I just, ease you from that burden.
I love it. Tell me about writing with Patti Smith. There's so many people out there. I mean, she's absolute genius poet. She's just who she is, and so revered. There's people that give their firstborn to be in the same room. You wrote many songs with her, and around her a lot. What was that experience like? What was Patti like?
Patty is I would have to say a very ethereal person. She is also like Sandy, a true intellectual, and but sometimes she'd say things, and you're like, what? Oh, she makes you think. But writing with her was, I never actually wrote with her. She would send me stuff. She would send me lyrics, or she'd see me at a show, or over at the apartment there, where she was with Alan, and she'd just give me a lyric and say, "Listen, I think this would be a good song for you to write." So that was usually how it went. And then I would write. She'd say, "I don't care. You can, rewrite the lyrics. You can do anything, but I think there's something there that you could use for a song." So she didn't care if I changed anything. She was really cool about it. And of course, I didn't change much because everything was really good. I mean, there was a few songs. I think Revenge of Vera Gemini, I took out some words. Debbie Denise, I changed the words to make it more like, it was sung from a female's point of view
Okay.
originally. I mean, and I was out rolling with my man.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to say that.
A little
Now,
awkward. Yeah.
on the other hand, when I toured with B.O.C. in 2016,
Yeah.
that's what I sang. It's a different world now.
There you go. Not awkward at all.
Yeah, but if you think about it, I mean, I was out touring with my band is really how she wrote this about two different people. Denise was my first wife.
Okay.
And when I met her, I was just playing in this crappy club for 12 people, you know,
Right.
and we were trying to get a record deal. I think we got married in May and we got the record deal in August, I think. So I got the record deal when she was married to me, and I had not really toured at all, and all the gigs were like local, so I'd
Right.
come home, so then after we got the record deal, I was on the road all the time, and she was alone,
Yeah.
and she she felt like, I don't want this. This is not the life I want, to be
Yeah.
alone, with my man out, and she'd say, "Oh, you're fucking around." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm a monogamist." He's
Hmm.
like, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we broke up, but it fit for her. But Debbie was Patti Smith's roommate,
Okay.
and eventually she thought that maybe there was something that she was going to have with Patty.
Okay.
And she got upset because Patty was going out, she would go over to Sam Shepard's house and not come home.
Mm.
And
I
so
see.
she got all jealous. So, so it had both things, it could be either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. That is really cool. I'll hear it differently now. Definitely. That's awesome. Um, I look at your career and 54 years, 50 more than that probably. You count the early days. You've been doing this a very long time. You're already putting the third record together in this trilogy. Have you ever thought of, after this third record, maybe I'll just go enjoy life and not, and
Well,
just stop the music thing? Have you ever thought about that?
well, I don't think about it these days, but I thought about it plenty when I did do that, which was, in the late 80s. I got a job in a public school. It
Hmm.
was just going to be a temporary job, but by 1990 I decided that I really liked this job, and so I semi-retired. I still, well, I didn't make any records from, shoot, well, I did the Richie Stotts thing. That was in 88, and Imaginos came out in 88, but that from 88 till 93, from 90 to 93, I basically didn't play any gigs, didn't make any records. I just worked on being a teacher and trying to do a good job with that. And then in 93, that's when we started the Brain Surgeons, and I started playing with David Hertzberg, and who was a fellow, and we would just tour in the summertime, and
Okay.
I would, and or play gigs on the weekends, and most of the time after school, after work, I could not work on music. So,
Okay.
once in a while, if I had a hot idea, and I'd pay for it the next day because I'd whatnot. But I also had a child in the house, so I couldn't make a lot of noise. It was, and it was an apartment with a crazy neighbor upstairs.
Right. Right.
God, the guy would come down drunk and like, I'm gonna fuck you up, man. I'm on the other side of the door. Well, then I'm not opening the door for you. How's that?
Wow.
If I open the door, my wife is gonna be calling cops.
Yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead. Your dad's supposed to be making noise. I'm like, it's 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock at night.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
just about to stop.
That'll make things difficult for you.
Yeah, that was hard. So,
Yeah.
and I have an apartment now, but it's well, maybe it's dumb luck, but I have cool neighbors.
You have to have cool neighbors.
I couldn't hear you, but damn, you guys are really good.
Can
It's
you
just
play a little louder?
I'm like, listen, if you were, because there's some Columbia University students that live below me, these two girls, and they're working on their doctorate. So I said, listen, if you got to study, let me, and I'm making noise, you let me know, and I will stop. I mean, I'm, just want to get along.
Yeah.
If you know,
Yeah.
so we're cool. We're all cool, and the neighbor next to me, uh, he is a professional drummer,
Look at that.
and I said, "Oh, have you ever done anything I might have heard of?" He goes, "Well, did you ever go to? Did you ever see Zero Mostel and Fiddler on the Roof?" I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "That was me playing the drums."
Wow.
So,
Wow.
so he played on Pippin, Guys and Dolls, West
Wow.
Side Story, just all these class. So he's 96 now. I actually I ch-
Really?
I changed his light bulb on his 96th birthday. I knocked on his door. I said, "Hey, Stan. His name is Stanley Coor, and
Mhm.
he was also a big deal in the union for a while." But anyway, I
Yeah.
said, "Dan, you need anything?" And he's like, yeah, I have a light that I need to change, and I'm starting to not want to get up on a ladder anymore."
Oh man.
Oh, no, 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 no. You're not getting up on any ladders anymore. You can walk around all you want, but I will do the ladder. You just let me know. And if I'm not around, my son will do it because my son lives with me now.
Cool.
So yeah,
Nin-
yeah, 96.
96. Oh my God. Wow.
I said, "Oh, that's great. Happy birthday."
I love it. It's
Yeah.
great, man. Good for Stan. Awesome. Um, is there anything on your bucket list, something that you've always wanted to do in your life and you just haven't had a chance yet?
So I retired from teaching in 2018.
Hmm.
I said because I want to devote the rest of my time to going back to being a professional full-time musician and doing stuff that I couldn't do when I was teaching, like go to NAM. I'd never been to NAM, even though I'd been
Yeah.
invited, but because it happens like the week before the high stakes test. So they need it's all hands on deck kind of every year. So
Yeah.
uh, I did that, and then I had like a cruise lined up for Blue Coop, one of my groups,
Yeah.
and of course then COVID
Yeah.
and that, and so there was no gigs. But I'd already started doing this thing. I thought I was going to take my time, but then I had all this time in the house, because I was quarantining, and so
Right.
that record, one of the things that happened in the original Imaginos was that I started recording it in 1983, and there would be these long pauses where we wouldn't do anything on it, we wouldn't work on it, and I was like, we need to just get this thing done, while we still have the energy, because the longer you take more time doing a project, you have to work up to doing it again, the next time you get back together. Whereas if you just do it all in a straight shot, you
Mhm.
maintain that energy. And I knew that I already knew when we did Fire of Unknown Origin. I mean, that was it. It was like we worked on that every day, no days off, for
Yeah.
like basically 8 weeks, and start to finish, we just recorded it, overdubs, mix.
Yep. And there is an amazing energy to that record.
Yeah, and so I was, concerned that we were going to lose energy, and Sandy's like, "Oh, that's ridiculous. Energy can't be destroyed. And all this other stuff." And he's doing physics on me, right? So what actually happened was, by the time the record was starting to be mixed, like in '86, late, early 86, I guess it was. Everybody that had signed me was gone. There was a whole new crew that was, that was expected to sell this thing, and they weren't into it. So
Ah,
yeah, it backfired on Sandy, and so he was like, "Well, I couldn't have predicted that they would all leave, and that we'd have these, Donnie Einer and people like that in
yeah,
there, people that no ears, you know,
yeah,
all the bean counter, budget. He was basically an accountant, you
yeah,
know. So I know it's not nice to talk about the dead, but he totally messed me up with
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, who knows? Maybe it would have come out and not done anything and nobody would have heard of it, whatever, whereas if it came out with the name recognition, but,
yeah,
it would have been, if it had been done the way that I wanted to do it, it would have been a better record for sure. It would have had all the songs on it,
yeah. Right, right, right.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. But you're doing it now. You're
Yeah,
doing it now.
doing
That's
it now and full time. So one of the things I'd like to do, I had an interview yesterday with a guy from Australia. He said, "Have you ever been down under?" I said, "No, and I want to go." So
yeah,
I want to travel, but I, uh, I want to, I want to travel, but I want to play first. When I can't play anymore, which I can see a point in time where, I mean, I do have arthritis and
right.
sometimes I'll be playing and my hands will get numb if I'm playing the drums or even, well, not really when I'm playing the guitar. I don't know. I think I don't notice it until the next. Oh,
As
can't
long as
do
you
it.
don't stop, you're okay.
Also, I've changed my. I used to play the way that I was shown, like Joe showed me. You do your bar chords like this, right? With your barring with your. That's why they call it a bar chord. You bar several
Right.
with your index finger, and then you put these other ones in there. Well, I'm doing it like this with a thumb over
Ah, okay.
because this is all the guys in Nashville do that, and they say it's more comfortable, and I'm finding it's true.
Okay.
Well, I've adapted my guitar style. So, but sometimes the drumming is a little hard, and I will have to, I change my technique to, because I do a lot of wrists.
Mhm.
Usually I used to do a wrist. Now I do this kind of thing.
Okay. Yep.
It's not, I can't play as loud as I used to, but I can play just as long and just as fast. So
Yep. Yeah. And that's
yeah,
good.
so yeah, I'm so for the next like 6 or 7 years, I'd like to play these places like Australia or I lived in Greece for a year when I was between 5 and 6. So
Wow.
I would love to go back to Greece. I haven't ever been back since I left. You know,
Wow.
so I'd like to go to Greece. I'd like to go to Russia.
Yeah.
I'd like to play in China. I think that would be awesome. You
Yep.
know or if not China, then at least the Philippines and some of those Asian countries. Like
Yeah.
the whole Australia, Vietnam.
Yeah.
Imagine playing in Vietnam.
Ah,
That
man.
would be amazing. Korea. Korea.
Would.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have an aspiration? You know you have aspirations to tour, obviously. Is there any kind of are you going to work on doing that? Are you going to work on putting a tour together?
Yeah. Well, I have a manager now.
Hmm?
And I'm still very friendly with the B.O.C management. So and they've been helping me out. So yeah, no, I think it's going to happen. As a matter of fact, I know it's going to happen.
All
I know
right.
because it's all I can't really talk about it because there's some gigs
Sure.
that I'm like so excited. I tell you, and
Yeah.
so yeah, so it's definitely going to happen because I never even had offers, and now I have offers. So
Man, that's just awesome. I'm here in Chicago. Don't forget about me over here.
yeah, maybe I played Reggie's a couple times with
Yeah.
Coop. So
Yeah.
the Reggie's.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's very close. Yeah, I grew up right there, and yeah. That's a good time. For sure. Yeah, Albert, it's been a blast. It's been an honor. You've changed the world with your music, and we so appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and get that third one out, and we'll do this again for sure.
Sounds great, man.
All right. Take care, bud.
Good.
Bye bye. Thanks so much.